Hi, I'm Abigail with Sumida Innovation, and this is Impromptu Innovation. If you're unfamiliar with the premise of this series, we take a word generator full of words that have something to do with innovation or organizational culture or learning and development. We hit generate a few minutes before we record, and then we just speak kind of off the cuff about what that means to us and the organizations that we partner with. The word that I got today was scale. Ordinarily, with a word like scale, I would talk about innovation. uh, how you take a low level grassroots innovation and amplify that out across an organization. But I've been talking recently to a lot of organizations that are going through a lot of growth or are startups looking to scale up. And so how to scale organizational culture is something has been on my mind a lot recently. So what I would say to organizations that are trying to tackle how to grow in a way that is in alignment with the culture that they value. The first thing I'd say is to be on message with yourself and to be clear when you're not. So what does it mean to be on message with yourself? That means the things that you do and the things particularly that your employees and your organization see you do are in alignment with the culture that you say that you value. The things that you amplify are in alignment with the values that you put there. The things that you celebrate uphold the culture that you have said is important to you. Now, all of this gets a lot more complicated as you grow because you are inevitably going to have to make decisions that are not ideal. They're at odds with the things that you say you value. And you're going to need to be very clear when that happens because you have brought in a lot of people now who don't know your origin story as well. They haven't been with you since the beginning. They don't assume your best intentions. You need to then explain when you have to make decisions that are at odds with your organizational culture. And I don't mean this ethically, like you should be making ethical decisions. That's not really what I'm talking about here. What I'm saying is say you are a company that, proceeds with a bias for action and you always want to be out first, always want to be on the cutting edge, but you find you're having compliance issues, or you find that the product that the customer is experiencing is just too glitchy, has too many bugs. You might have to slow down, and that might be out of line with the things that you say that you value and the culture that you're trying to put forward. And when that happens, you need to explain that to your workforce. They need to understand why you're making that decision and why you're slowing down or pulling back, because they need to understand that disparity because they're not going to immediately intuit your decision making the way that your core group of employees might. Similarly, if you are an organization that really values work-life balance but in order to achieve a certain deliverable, you need to ask people to work through the weekend or give up some personal time. If you're making that decision, you need to explain that you understand the disparity between your described ideal state culture and what you're asking people to do, because they need to understand that that there's a difference between what you're saying and what you're doing. The next thing I would say is you need to understand what incentives your newer group of employees are going to respond to, because almost certainly they're going to be different than the people that you started with. That initial group of people might be really happy to just work for the betterment of the team or of the organization, or to put something good out into the world, or to make the best version of something. Your newer level or newer group of employees probably aren't going to respond as well to that sort of motivation. So you might have to find out what motivates that younger group of employees or that newer group of employees. It might be financial incentives. It might be educational opportunities. It might be opportunities for advancement, but you need to understand what's meaningful for them and make them understand that that they will respond to different incentives, because that will help bring them along with you and in the culture that you value. And the last thing, and I think this gets missed a lot, is understanding that even if you do those things, you now have to put in place managers and supervisors at the sort of interim levels that have to also carry forward your culture. They have to also carry those values and impart those to your employees, because you no longer are going to have those touch points every single day with every employee to reinforce the things that you value and the things that you think are important and that you want everyone else to understand. So you have to make sure all of your managers are very, very closely aligned in terms of value and cultural and ambassadorship for your employees, especially your new hires. Because if they're not, it doesn't matter how well you are reinforcing your own culture, the leadership that they experience isn't. So those are the big things that I highlight with growth organizations about how to scale culture from a small organization to a growing organization. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot us an email or comment on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to talk about this more, reach out and we'll set up a meeting. Thank you so much.